What I think about the internet is that I think there are many, many levels of it. But first of all, it exists because of military technology. They've not allowed the internet to become what it is unless there was an ulterior motive for them. There was something in it for them. And my feeling is this. There are some very, very good things about the internet in relation to their agenda. First of all, you can get a profile of someone by following their movements through websites and stuff. Email is the easiest form of communication to monitor. And so there are some very good things in terms of surveillance. But there are some very bad things too that come with that, which is websites that are now getting tremendous hits and growing all the time, which are actually exposing the game. And what I think, Mike, is their agenda is to give the impression, first of all, as they have, that this is like freedom of information, and then start, and they're already doing it, start to pick off the bad things on the internet in relation to their agenda, while keeping the good things, which is the ability for surveillance and many other points. America is also an incredibly diverse people in terms of their genetic history. If anyone can become president of the United States, clearly the presidents of the United States, from Washington to Bush, should reflect, increasingly so now, this fantastic genetic diversity. When you do their genealogy, the presidents of the United States are no less a royal dynasty than those in Britain and Europe. Because their bloodlines go back to the royal families and aristocracy of Europe, which go back down into the nearer Middle East. We are looking at the same interbreeding tribe that have just expanded their power over the centuries and now have reached a point, because of the centralization, where they can make their final play to take the whole place over with this centralized structure. And if people find it hard to believe that people would be in power because of their bloodline or anything like that, well, I would just take them on a trip to Buckingham Palace. We have a head of state in Britain who is only the Queen because of her DNA. Only. If she had a different DNA, she might be cleaning the throne, not sitting on it. This is how ludicrous it gets, right? Now, people say, oh yeah, well that's kings and queens, yes, yeah, because that's their bloodline, yeah, right, okay. Well, hold on a minute. That they call them kings and queens, therefore you say, oh yes, it's bloodline and all that stuff. What actually happened is, when the people started to rebel against this overt, in-your-face dictatorship by royal king and queen, these bloodlines started going into other places of power. They went into the new politics, they went into the banking, they went into the ownership of business and what have you. Media. Ownership of the media, big one. Of course, if you want to sell people a movie, a lie, to obscure what's really going on, then you need to control the major sources of information that people are gonna receive, because then you can sell them the lie, and that's why the media is owned by this Illuminati. So, like I say, the presidents of the United States are no more or less a royal dynasty than those in Europe. And when you look at some of the things that Burke's Peerage, this Bible of European royal and aristocratic genealogy based in London, have said, how about this? And what are the chances of this? This is Burke's Peerage. Every single presidential election from George Washington to George W. Bush has been won by the candidate with the most royal genes.
Wow,
every one, bar none, not one exception. It's come to the point where if you do the genealogy of the two presidential candidates, you can tell which one's going to win. It's extraordinary. Why was it that George W. Bush, this village idiot, attracted record amounts of money for his presidential campaign? Because he was the chosen one. And even though he was such a bad candidate and couldn't even win with that, they just rigged the thing in Florida, and away you went. And now we have an unelected dictator taking America into war and the world into war after war. I mean, you couldn't make this up. It's so ludicrous. And it's time, really, for people pulling no punches, to stop sitting on their butts, stop watching the world pass them by, stop letting life live them, and starting to live life and affect their own reality. And instead of saying, well, nothing I can do about it, get up, get on with it. Things are being done.
People apparently come out of nowhere to positions of power and influence, like they say, or lots of people believe, that Obama came out of nowhere. He was prepared for a very long time to do what he's doing now. These people do not do ad lib. They don't do make it up as you go along. It's all projected a long way forward. And it's also extraordinary the number of people, even in the apparently lower positions of power and influence within the church, within entertainment, etc., who turn up as expressions of this bloodline elite. And I've understood this over the years, having met people who've been on the inside. I'll give you one example. I communicated with a guy who lives in America now, living under another name, but he was an unofficial Rothschild. His father was the guy who started the Rothschild wine estates in France. And he told me how the Rothschilds and these bloodline families not only interbreed with many different women to produce the bloodline, but they actually have sperm banks, because the sperm bank holds the genetic code that they operate on. And part of that genetic code is it's had deleted from it any feeling of empathy. Very, very important point. These people do not have the ability to empathize with the consequences for others of their actions. So 3,000 dead on 9/11, well, there's no emotional consequence at all, because that ability to empathize, which is a fail-safe mechanism of human behavior, has been deleted from the genetic structure, purposely. But this man, who was an unofficial Rothschild, one of thousands and thousands, this guy was telling me, who were produced by the breeding programs and the artificial breeding programs, was designated a specific role, and that was to have a position within the Christian church, even though they were all practicing Satanists, and undermine it and dictate its direction from within. Because they produce these children and they bring them up under different names, you will not have a situation where every president's a Rockefeller, where every prime minister is a Rothschild. You get the picture. Because they come through different names. They're called Clinton, they're called Bush, they're called Obama, etc. But forget the name, the genetic structure, the bloodline is the same. And this bloodline filters down, not just at from the high positions, but right out into mainstream society. Why do some artists who have a certain amount of talent, some not very much, why do they get picked up by the corporations to become these big influencers of young people and other people through the entertainment and the music industry, and others with incredible talent never get off the ground? It's because they are chosen.